of our guys shot at the uncontacted tribes and been shot at by arrows. One of my rangers has a scar on his head from a 7-foot arrow from the uncontacted tribes. There's a picture of that too. I think it says uncontacted Ignacio.
7-foot arrow.
Yeah, so they use the river cane, and then they take bamboo, and they get an incredible edge on the bamboo, and it's like they temper it over the fire. And so the river cane doesn't weigh anything, so they make these monster arrows, and they can actually like nail a spider monkey out of the trees from 40 meters.
Really?
Yeah, so check this out. So this is one of my rangers, Ignacio. He's local, indigenous, and
that's the scar on his head from the arrow.
Yeah, he was trying. So the uncontacted came out, and
that
they
looks pretty fresh. You're gonna have a scar on your head. That's a good spot. That looks good.
Yeah, someone's got a picture of it when it happened, but he was saying they were trying to push bananas because these people don't know. These people are out there and they're naked and they're in the jungle and they've been there for a few hundred years. And he was there and he was actually working for the Ministry of Culture, and he was like, let me try and be friendly. Let me try and extend an olive branch. And so he was trying to push a boatload of bananas towards them. And the scariest thing was they didn't want anyone to understand them, and so they were actually speaking in Capuchin monkey calls. And he's out in the middle. He's brave, this guy, and he went out to the middle of the river and he pushed this thing, and he said he saw the arrow coming straight at his eyeball, and he just moved his head to the side, and it just gave him that, cut him right to the skull.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's that one, and then there should be one more where he's just looking right at us. But yeah, he's lucky. He's really lucky. He's got worse stories than that too. One time he was at a remote guard post, and the tribes came, and he'd already gotten shot. And he said he went up into the roof and hid in the rafters, and wrapped himself. And he said it was the middle of the day and he was baking, and he said he could hear the uncontacted tribes underneath him. And he was trying to make the decision of, do I kill myself like a dog in a car in this heat? He knew he was going to die, or do I go down and let them rip me apart? And it was just the most terrifying story. But yeah, like that.
How did he get out of it?
He waited it out. I mean, he'd already been shot in the head, so he was like, I know what's going to happen if I go down there.
Wow.
Also, then everyone's going to come after me for calling them uncontacted. Apparently that's an outdated term. Apparently the correct parlance these days is voluntarily isolated indigenous nomadic persons.
Let's stick with uncontacted.
Can we just call them uncontacted?
Oh, fuck you, man. Fuck you for making me remember all that shit. It's so silly.
Yeah.
Uncontacted is not a pejorative.
No, it's just... And then people are like, well, they technically have contact if they shot your friend. And I'm like, yeah, well...
Sort of.
I guess.
Peripheral.
Sure.
It's got to be horrifying for them, right? I mean, if they've been there for thousands and thousands of years living like that, and then slowly but surely they see this encroachment of machines, and how much they understand of this Western culture that's infringing upon them.
It's weird because these guys, they don't have boats. And so they don't have the wheel, all these simple inventions. They don't work with metal. And so I believe that the current theory says now that basically these people were living extremely isolated around the time of the Industrial Revolution. They were already very remote. And then when you had the demand for rubber, the Amazon was the only place that you could get rubber. And Henry Ford found out when he did Fordlandia, you can't make a plantation out of rubber. It'll get leaf blight and die. So the only way to get rubber was to start a full-scale genocide where they sent down these rubber barons that beat and whipped the native people and sent them out into the jungle to go collect rubber from the rubber trees for gaskets and hoses and everything that we needed. These are the people that fought. These are the people that remained unconquered, stayed back further in the deepest parts of the forest. And so you think these people's grandparents must tell them that those outsiders will set you on fire. They will skin you alive. If you see one of them, kill it before it kills you. So they must be just running scared.
Wow. It is really fascinating that there's still people living essentially the exact same way they were living thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. They have a couple of machetes that they stole off some friends of mine. They sacked this village one time and they took pots and machetes. They killed all the animals. Yeah, they're very strange to deal with. Like there was a guy who had started leaving them bananas, and then he left them a shirt. He would just very carefully because they can't speak. They don't speak
Right.
Spanish. They don't even speak Piro or anything or Yine is the dialect that we deal with on our river, and they murdered him too. And like he was friends with them for a few years, and no one has an explanation. I just spoke to a eminent anthropologist about this. I was like, what was the reason for that? And he's like, no one knows.
So he had made some sort of contact with them and was
He had regular
giving
contact.
them things. And
Yeah.
was he in contact physically with them?
I think like he would be in the same space. Like he could have spoken to them if he could speak to them. But I think it was sort of like I leave you this and then I back up. And then they would come forward and then, you know, it would be like this very, very careful
Yeah.
exchange. And that went on for a few years. And then everyone was like, oh, there's this guy. And he's been able to develop this. It was special. You know, it wasn't in any way, it wasn't like a bravado thing. It was like he was actually trying to be like, can we make friends with these people? Can we make a relationship here? Maybe bring them in. Maybe do they want to come in? Are they scared? Do they need help? Maybe we could just help them with some stuff. And then they found him with 7-foot arrows in him.
Mm.
So yeah,
And no explanation. No one knows.
no
what
explanation. So yeah, the one time that I saw them, I ran for 3 days. I like ran down river. I jumped in my boat. I went all night. I realized I'd made a wrong turn and ended up somewhere I shouldn't have been. And I was completely alone because then that was after the learning days and the jungle keepers days came the days where the locals were like, okay, so you know the jungle, like start going out on your own, see if you could really do it, go survive. And I personally wanted to see if I could experience living. I wanted to know it's like being told you can go to Mars and walk around all by yourself.
Whoa.
When you're out in the Amazon for a week by yourself and you're camping on a beach and you wake up and you walk upriver and you camp on a beach and you wake up. To me, it was almost like the world melted away. It was like that Will Smith movie where you're the last person on Earth. It's like